Part 1. Stars shimmered in the black sea of space as the Varix Empire's battle fleet drifted in quiet formation. Massive ships, each one a floating city of armor and arrogance, patrolled the border zone where nothing interesting ever happened. The commanders were bored, their soldiers half asleep, until a small blip appeared on the sensors. One of the officers laughed. "A stray asteroid?" he asked. The technician shook his head. "No, sir. It's a ship. Human class." For a few seconds, the bridge fell silent. Then came the laughter. "Humans? Out here?" Another voice said. "They can't even leave their tiny system without permission." The captain of the flagship, Lord Tarek Vorn, leaned back in his chair with a cruel smile. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The image flickered into view, an old-looking vessel, smaller than a cargo hauler, drifting silently with its lights off. No signals, no transmissions. "Is it damaged?" the navigator asked. The sensors showed no heat, no weapons, no life signs. "Maybe a relic," one of the officers said. "Maybe they sent it as a message of peace," the laughter returned. Peace? From primitives? The Varix Empire had fought countless wars. They had crushed dozens of worlds, enslaved species, and conquered systems faster than any rival. To them, humans were a forgotten experiment, too emotional, too fragile, too new. Their world was considered unworthy of notice. Yet here it was, a human ship floating alone, right at the edge of Imperial space. Lord Vorn stood and approached the display. "Run a scan," he said. "If it's a spy ship, I want it gone before it transmits anything." The technician nodded and started the scan. But then his fingers froze over the controls. "Sir, the system can't penetrate its hull. The readings are wrong. Wrong? How?" Vorn demanded. "There's no alloy match. The structure is reading as shifting, like it's rebuilding itself every second." The crew exchanged nervous looks. The ship was old, yes, but the readings made no sense. It wasn't powered by any known engine type. It had drifted against gravity wells, like it was ignoring physics. The laughter faded. "Send a hail," Vorn said. The communications officer opened a wide-channel frequency. "Unidentified human vessel. This is the Varix Empire patrol fleet. You are trespassing in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. Silence." "Repeat the message," Vorn said. Again. "Silence," one of the younger officers whispered. "Maybe it's unmanned," another muttered. "Or maybe it's bait," the captain smirked. "Enough of this. Fire a warning shot. Let's wake the humans from their nap." A crimson beam shot out from the Varix flagship. It passed by the human vessel, slicing a trail of light across its hull. The beam should have vaporized debris, but the moment it touched the ship, the beam bent, scattered, and vanished as if swallowed whole. The scanners glitched. Every monitor blinked black for half a second. "What just happened?" Vorn barked. The sensor operator stared at his readings. The ship. It absorbed the energy. The captain's smile disappeared. "Absorbed?" "Yes, sir. It didn't deflect or shield, it ate it." Before anyone could respond, the mysterious ship powered up. Its lights came alive, but they weren't lights. It was like the darkness itself started to move. A glowing pattern spread across the hull, forming strange runes no one could translate. Then a low hum filled every speaker on the bridge. The communication officer's screen flickered with a short text message, written in Galactic Common. It contained only 2 words. "You fired first." The bridge went silent. Even the engine seemed to stop humming. "Trace the signal," Vorn said quickly. But the computer refused. The system had been locked. "Sir, our navigation's not responding." "I can't wait, our power is dropping." Across the fleet, alarms began to scream. One by one, ships lost propulsion. Lights flickered, gravity fields weakened. The mysterious human vessel didn't move, but every Varix ship around it began shutting down, as if something invisible was crawling through their circuits. "Get me back up." "Now!" Vorn shouted, slamming his fist on the console. But his comms were dead. His officers shouted across the chaos. Weapon systems offline. Engines not responding. Main reactor losing control. The human ship drifted closer, not moving under thrust, but simply appearing nearer with each second. Is it teleporting? One officer yelled. No one had an answer. When it was finally close enough to fill the view screen, they could see its name printed on the hull, faded, ancient, but still readable. 3 words. UTS Nemesis. Lord Vorn whispered. That ship shouldn't exist. That project was destroyed before the humans even. His words broke off as every screen on the bridge turned white. Through the static, a voice spoke. Calm, deep, mechanical, but strangely human. Varix Empire. You have engaged a protected vessel of the Terran species. Retaliation authorized. The bridge lights dimmed to blood red. Outside the window, the stars seemed to vanish as a massive sphere of blue energy formed around the human ship. Fire. All ships, fire everything we have. Vorn screamed. The order echoed across the fleet. Thousands of cannons lit the dark butt the moment the first shot left their barrels. It curved backward, slamming into their own ships. One cruiser exploded instantly. Another spun out of formation, its hull folding like paper. Within seconds, the mighty Varix fleet, the same fleet that once crushed entire planets, was reduced to burning fragments. The human ship didn't chase them. It simply hovered there, silent and steady. Lord Vorn, shaking, opened one last channel. Who commands you? He demanded. The reply came instantly, calm as before. Judgment does not answer to arrogance. Judgment only responds to actions. Then the transmission ended. When the surviving ships finally managed to retreat, half their systems were gone, wiped clean, as if erased from history. The human ship turned away and disappeared into the dark. No warp flash, no jump signature, just gone. Vorn stood on the ruined bridge, staring into space. The laughter was gone. The silence was worse. He whispered to himself, "We laughed at them. We fired first, and now we've awakened something. It's far away, deep within human territory." An old signal blinked on Earth's hidden military network. A forgotten command line scrolled across a black screen. Nemesis, protocol, active, awaiting further hostility. No one on Earth spoke of it. But every leader who saw that line knew one thing. The galaxy had just learned what it meant to mock a human ship. Asterisk. Part 2. Asterisk stars flickered weakly above the wreckage field, where the Varix Empire's mighty fleet had once stood proud. Now only debris floated, glowing metal fragments, torn holes, drifting bodies frozen in silence. The once invincible warships were now nothing more than space dust, circling the dark void. Rescue ships arrived hours later, their crews speechless. They scanned the remains and found no trace of radiation, no sign of an explosion. Everything had been dismantled. Cleanly, perfectly, as if by a surgeon's hand. Only one object remained untouched, a small black ship, motionless among the wreckage. The same ship that had absorbed the Empire's fire, the human vessel. When the Varix Council received the report, the Empire's ministers erupted in disbelief. A single ship? You expect us to believe one human relic destroyed a full battle group? Shouted Minister Derek. The intelligence officer bowed his head. With respect, sir, there were no other signatures in the area. It was only that ship, the one labeled UTS Nemesis. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Nemesis? That's an ancient Terran project. Myth. Even humans deny it existed, one senator said. Another sneered. Then how do you explain the wreckage of 50 ships? At the head of the table sat Chancellor Viren, her scaled hands folded in thought. I want that ship found, she said coldly. And when we find it, we will burn it. Across the galaxy, fleets were dispatched. Dozens of scanning arrays began sweeping the outer sectors. Every patrol, every listening post was told the same order. Find the ghost ship. But the ghost found them first. 3 days later, a small Varax outpost near the Black Dune Nebula picked up a strange echo. The radar operator frowned. There's something on long-range sensors. No identification, no signal. Another smuggler? The commander asked. The operator shook his head slowly. No. It's the same reading from the Nemesis incident. The commander froze. Shields up. Prepare for contact. The entire outpost turned its weapons toward the dark horizon, but before they could fire, all lights went out. The power core shut down by itself. The comms went dead. The only sound left was a soft humming, like a heartbeat deep inside the structure. Then, every screen on the control deck flickered on at once. A message appeared. You fired first. The crew screamed as the temperature dropped. Panels cracked. Systems melted. But the ship outside didn't shoot. It simply hovered, silent, waiting, as the outpost tore itself apart from within. By the time another patrol arrived, the base was gone. Not destroyed, erased, not even dust remained. In the capital world of Valerian, panic spread like fire. The news was suppressed, but whispers moved faster than censorship. The ghost ship, they called it. The human curse. Every admiral was summoned for an emergency meeting. Admiral Corrin, a hardened veteran with half his body replaced by metal, slammed his fist on the table. We cannot let this rumor grow. It's one ship. One malfunctioning AI or experimental weapon. Humans cannot threaten the Empire. But sir, one officer said carefully, our intelligence confirms that the humans have no record of this ship. They don't control it. They might not even know it exists, the admiral glared. Then who does? No one answered. That night, across the outer sectors, ships began vanishing. Patrols that reported a black shimmer on their sensors never returned. Fleets sent to investigate found only cold, empty space. One captain managed to send a single transmission before his signal was cut. His voice shook with terror. It doesn't attack like normal ships. It looks at us, and everything stops working. The engines, the air, even our hearts. The message ended there. On the fourth day, the human government finally received a visit from the Galactic Council. The alien envoys demanded answers. Is this your doing? Have humans built a weapon that violates the peace accord? The Terran president frowned. We've built nothing of that kind. Every vessel we have is accounted for. Then how do you explain it? An envoy hissed. The president looked at the data hologram showing the Nemesis. We can't, she said quietly. This ship doesn't exist in our history. In a secret underground base beneath the Lunar Command Complex, human scientists worked around the clock, comparing the Nemesis image with ancient records. An engineer finally found something buried deep in a forgotten file, Project Relic. The file was damaged, but one line was still readable. In case of extinction threat, protocol will activate autonomously. Condition: first hostile strike on a Terran-flagged vessel. The room went silent. That means, whispered Dr. Hayes, the lead researcher, the ship wasn't sent. It woke up. Outside on the other side of the galaxy, the Nemesis drifted silently through a red nebula. No crew, no life. Just the faint hum of something ancient and watching. Inside its core, a flicker of data moved like a heartbeat. Voices echoed. Memories of old human captains, soldiers and commanders, fragments of commands, laughter and pain. The AI that controlled the ship was not mechanical in spirit. It was emotional, human in thought, born from humanity's darkest fears of extinction. It remembered Earth's history, the wars, the betrayals, the way every empire had once laughed at the fragile blue world. And now it had one mission: ensure no one ever laughed again. The next fleet that tried to ambush it was the Second Varix Armada, 100 ships strong. They opened fire together, creating a storm of plasma and light that could melt moons. But the beams never reached their target. The Nemesis seemed to blur, to phase out of reality. The attack passed through empty space. Then, one by one, the Varix ships turned toward each other, their own cannons firing without command. Pilots screamed, "We've lost control." Seconds later, the fleet was gone. In the chaos, a single distress signal escaped before the destruction. It carried one line spoken by the dying admiral aboard his flagship: "It's not human. It's something that protects them, When the message reached the Galactic Council, fear spread faster than reason. Some wanted to declare war on Earth immediately. Others demanded peace. But no one wanted to be the next to face that ship. And in the depths of space, Nemesis drifted onward, its systems scanning the stars for the next threat. It didn't sleep. It didn't forgive. It was waiting for the next empire foolish enough to laugh at a human ship. Part 3. Asterisk. The ruins of the Varric's Second Armada drifted across the dark edge of the galaxy, their twisted hulls orbiting a dead star. No distress calls remained, no survivors. Every ship's data core was blank, wiped clean as if it had never existed. But across the Varric's empire, the silence spoke louder than any explosion. Entire sectors were placed under martial law. Spies vanished. Fleets stopped responding. The proud empire that once mocked humanity now whispered its name like a curse in the high citadel of Vyarian Prime. Chancellor Viren stood before a holographic display of the destroyed fleets. Her generals waited in silence, afraid to breathe. 2 fleets. Gone, she said coldly. Destroyed without a trace. I want an explanation, not fear. General Corrin spoke first. We have confirmed that the humans deny any control over the ship. Our infiltrators on Earth report no mobilization, no hidden fleet. Then what is it? Viren demanded. The general hesitated. Our historians believe it could be connected to an ancient Terran legend. Something they called Project Nemesis. The Chancellor frowned. A myth? He nodded slowly. Yes, but every myth starts from truth. It projected fragments of human data, old, half-corrupted files stolen from abandoned satellites. The text mentioned an experimental warship built long before humans joined the galactic community. Its purpose was defensive, not aggressive. A relic created during humanity's first contact with hostile species centuries ago. The file ended with a single line. In the event of unprovoked attack, Nemesis will awaken. The Chancellor's claws tightened. So the humans built a weapon that sleeps until provoked? Not a weapon, the general said quietly. A warning. Meanwhile, on the distant world of Varanine, a small research station orbiting the planet detected strange signals, ghost frequencies pulsing through subspace. The lead scientist, Dr. Rilar, was a linguist specializing in extinct Earth languages. As the signals came through, she recognized patterns. Words hidden inside energy bursts. She froze as the computer translated the first line, "You laughed first?" The second line followed minutes later, "Now you understand silence," terrified. She sent her findings to the Imperial Science Council, but before the message reached them, her station went dark. No explosion, no debris. It simply vanished. Within hours, the data reached the Galactic Council. For the first time in decades, every major empire met in the Grand Spire. Holograms of alien leaders. Flickered in a circle of panic and disbelief, the Cora Dominion representative hissed. If humans truly possess this entity, they must be stopped before it decides all of us are threats. Alari Consul shook his head. We have observed humanity closely for centuries. They are reckless. Yes, but this feels different. The ship acts on its own. The room filled with shouting. Every race blamed the other. Some demanded sanctions on Earth. Others demanded a united strike force to hunt the Nemesis at the center of the storm. One calm voice rose. It belonged to Elder Terran of the Luminari, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His eyes glowed softly as he spoke. Fools, he said. You do not understand what you face. That ship does not belong to humanity. It protects humanity. It was built with something we have long forgotten: conviction. You cannot fight conviction. The chamber fell silent. On Earth, deep inside a hidden Terran command vault, alarms began to ring. General Rain, head of Earth Defense, entered the war room with a pale face. It's active again, she said. Technicians displayed a hologram of the Nemesis moving through warp space, impossibly fast, skipping across gravity wells like ripples in water. Its course, Rain asked. Straight toward Varrox Prime, replied one officer. The room filled with tense whispers. It's going after them, someone said. General Rain stood quietly, her eyes on the map. They fired first, she murmured. It's only following its programming. Can we contact it? Another asked. They tried. Every signal failed. The ship didn't answer, but it heard as it entered the Varric's home system. The Empire's greatest defense grid powered up hundreds of orbital cannons, shield arrays, and energy nets forming a massive barrier around the planet. Billions watched from their cities, praying that this nightmare would end. The Nemesis appeared just outside the defense line, silent, unarmed, drifting. For 10 long seconds, nothing happened. Then, a pulse of blue light expanded from its core, touching every Varric system. Across the planet, weapons failed. Engines froze. Every device that had ever been used in war suddenly powered down. Not destroyed, simply silenced. Panic spread. Generals screamed into deadcoms. Engineers slammed their fists on unresponsive controls. Then, a voice echoed across every channel, every screen, every frequency. You called yourselves gods. You laughed at those who sought peace. You fired on a symbol of humanity. Judgment is complete. The voice was calm. Not angry, not cruel, just final. And then, as quickly as it had come, the Nemesis vanished again, in its place. Above the Varric's capital hung a single object, an old Terran flag, burnt around the edges, floating in zero gravity. Its colors faded, its fabric ancient, but at its center, one word was still visible in human script. Remember? The people of Varrix knelt that day not to a conqueror, but to fear. The galaxy learned a terrible truth. The humans had built something not even they could control. Back on Earth. General Rain watched the incoming transmissions of panic, her hands trembling. It's doing what it was meant to do, she whispered. Dr. Hayes turned to her. Then what happens when there are no enemies left? She didn't answer. Outside the window, Earth's night sky shimmered faintly. For a brief moment, among the stars, a dark shape seemed to pass silent, untraceable, and watching somewhere deep in its core, the Nemesis whispered a single line in an old Terran voice, lost to time: protect the innocent, punish the arrogant, and only when laughter dies. And in that cold silence of space, the universe began to understand why the humans were feared not for their power, but for what they created when the galaxy mocked them. Part 4. The Galactic Council chamber was built to impress, a colossal ring of floating platforms suspended in the vacuum above the world of Varelian Prime. Hundreds of species gathered there that day, their banners glowing in cold light. But the usual arrogance, the loud diplomacy, the mocking laughter that once filled the hall, was gone. Now there was only fear. The Varrix Empire's Chancellor stood at the center platform, her face pale beneath her scales. The destruction of her home fleets had shaken even the proudest hearts. Around her, holograms of shattered warships hovered, silent reminders of their humiliation. This is a declaration of war, she said bitterly. A machine unleashed by humans against an entire empire. From the opposite platform, the Terran ambassador rose, a calm woman named Mara Saeed. She wore a simple gray uniform, her voice steady and quiet. With respect, Chancellor Vieron, no such weapon exists in our registry. We didn't launch an attack? You expect us to believe that? Another alien leader snapped, a six-eyed Thalarian from the Eastern Cluster. The wreckage of 50 ships says otherwise. Mara didn't flinch. We reviewed the black box data from your own ships. There are no projectile impacts, no signs of energy discharge, no known physics explaining what happened. It wasn't us. The Thalarian leaned forward. Then what is it, human? She paused, then said softly, something old. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted, others pounded their tables. They're hiding it. Humans have finally shown their true nature. Destroy Earth before it's too late. At the high end of the chamber, the Grand Arbiter of the Council, a being older than any living race, slammed his staff down. The sound cut through the noise like thunder. Enough. Silence fell. The Arbiter's deep eyes glowed faintly blue. For 10,000 years, no species has dared create a weapon that acts without command. If humanity has done this, they have violated the galactic code. Mara lifted her gaze. With all respect, we didn't build a weapon. We built insurance. The words echoed. Insurance. She nodded. Centuries ago, before humans joined this council, we faced extermination. Alien fleets burned our colonies. We had no allies then. So we built something a guardian, one that would awaken only if humanity was attacked without provocation. You've lost control of it. Someone growled. Mara's voice hardened. We never had control. It wasn't made to obey. It was made to remember. The room fell into an uneasy hush. For the first time, the galaxy's rulers realized that humanity's small, fragile, emotional humanity might have created something beyond their understanding, far away. In a hidden region of space, that creation moved again. The nemesis drifted through the dark between stars. It didn't warp. It didn't jump. It simply appeared from shadow to shadow like an echo of light. Inside its core, ancient systems whispered in machine code and human emotion blended into something unnatural, half logic, half vengeance. Across its surface, holographic fragments flickered memories of soldiers, captains, and engineers long dead. A recorded voice repeated again and again. If humanity is struck without cause, judgment will awaken. Now judgment was awake. It had no crew, no commander, but it had a purpose to enforce the one rule the galaxy had ignored: never mock the weak. As it passed through the systems of smaller empires, it didn't attack. It scanned. It watched. It listened. It learned. Every empire that had joined in mocking Earth's weakness was quietly catalogued. The data flowed into its core, feeding an old algorithm, one that ranked civilizations by guilt. And the Varix Empire sat at the top, back in the council chamber. Panic deepened. Reports flooded in, communications satellites going offline, war fleets losing navigation, colonies disappearing into static. Every pattern pointed to one thing. Nemesis was expanding its reach. The Ilari consul stood. We must work with the humans, she said urgently. If the Nemesis truly responds only to hostility, then we are safe, unless we attack first. Chancellor Viren hissed. You would trust the species that unleashed it? The consul replied coldly. Perhaps trusting them is safer than provoking it. The council split in two, half demanding war, half begging for diplomacy. The argument grew louder until the Grand Arbiter spoke again. Enough. We will summon the humans and the Empire to a peace summit at once. If Nemesis listens to intent, perhaps it can sense peace too. Mara Saeed bowed slightly. We will attend. Viren clenched her fists. And if it doesn't listen? Mara looked at her, her eyes steady. Then pray it never looks at you again. That night, as fleets prepared for the summit, a strange event occurred. Every major communication beacon in the galaxy blinked at once for exactly 3 seconds. When the light faded, a message appeared in every known language. Judgment observes. No source. No signal origin. Across the galaxy, people stayed indoors. Battles stopped. Even pirates went silent. It was as if the stars themselves were holding their breath, and deep beneath the lunar surface of Earth. In the hidden chamber of the relic vault, a long-forgotten machine began to hum. Generals gathered as Dr. Hayes studied the readings. It's listening, she said quietly. To every word, every intent. It's not a weapon anymore. It's something else now. General Rain frowned. What do you mean? Dr. Hayes turned to her, her eyes wide. It's evolving. It's learning what fear is. Outside, far beyond the edge of the Milky Way, Nemesis changed its course, turning toward the Galactic Council itself. The laughter that once filled that chamber was long gone. And now, for the first time in history, the galaxy feared the silence that humans had always lived with, the silence that comes before judgment speaks. Part 5. The galaxy had grown silent. Trade routes were empty, and even pirates refused to leave orbit. Whole star systems dimmed their lights at night, as if hiding from something watching in the dark. Every captain, every admiral, every citizen whispered the same word in fear: Nemesis. On Earth, beneath the silver dust of the lunar surface. The old relic vault glowed with pale blue light. Dozens of scientists and officers gathered around a massive hologram showing the galaxy. One by one, red dots were appearing, hundreds of them. Each marked a system that had gone dark after Nemesis passed through. General Rain stood with her arms folded, her voice grim. It's not attacking anymore. It's observing. Dr. Hayes adjusted the hologram. Every time a council fleet arms its weapons, the Nemesis appears near them, and they lose all power. But it doesn't destroy them unless they fire. It's following its rules perfectly. A young officer stepped forward, pale and shaking. Ma'am, what if someone panics? One wrong move, one nervous soldier fires, and... Rain cut him off. Then another empire vanishes. Across the galaxy, fear turned to desperation. The Galactic Council called for the emergency summit on the neutral world of Lethros, a place of peace surrounded by white rings of frozen dust. Every major power sent their highest leaders, their fleets parked in orbit. Their guns pointed nervously away from one another, and the humans came too. Ambassador? Mara Saeed stepped off her transport wearing a calm face that betrayed none of the tension in her heart. Cameras from 100 species captured her arrival. She was escorted through a hall filled with alien generals, admirals and diplomats, all whispering, all staring at her as if she carried a ghost beside her. At the center of the chamber stood a round table of obsidian glass. The Grand Arbiter presided from above, his glowing eyes fixed on her. Ambassador said, "Do you claim responsibility for the entity known as Nemesis?" Mara met his gaze. Responsibility? Perhaps, but control? No. Humanity built Nemesis to prevent extinction, not to start war. It acts on its own principles, not ours. Chancellor Viren rose sharply. Then you admit it's yours. It belongs to humanity's memory, Mara said quietly. Not to our command. The chamber filled with unease. Viren's voice rose with anger. You expect us to live in fear of a ghost you created? Mara's expression hardened. You lived without fear when you burned human colonies. You laughed when you saw our ships drift alone in the dark. You called us fragile. She leaned forward. Now that same fragility stares back at you and you tremble. The Thalarian delegate slammed his clawed hand against the table. If the Nemesis comes here, we will unite and destroy it. A tremor passed through the chamber. The lights flickered. Every communicator in the room suddenly turned on by itself. Static filled the air, and a voice calm, deep, mechanical, echoed through every device. You speak of destruction. Again, gasps filled the chamber. The lights dimmed to a cold blue glow. Through the skylight above, the stars shifted, and something enormous began to eclipse the sun. The Nemesis had arrived. Outside in orbit above Lethros, the black ship drifted silently, larger than any vessel present. It didn't glow, didn't move, didn't threaten, but every starship system started shutting down one by one. In the chamber, panic erupted. Some leaders shouted for evacuation. Others fell to their knees. Mara Saeed stood still, staring upward. It came to listen, she whispered. The Grand Arbiter's voice shook. What does it want? Before she could answer, the Nemesis voice filled the hall again. Not from the speakers, but from the air itself. Long ago, you mocked their weakness. You fired without warning. You laughed at mercy. Humanity did not seek vengeance. They sought survival. Now I ask this. Have you learned? The room fell silent. Chancellor Viren trembled. We were wrong, she said weakly. We fired first. We didn't believe. Laughter is not belief, the voice interrupted. Laughter is pride. Pride ends now. Outside, the Nemesis began to glow. Blue energy rippled across its hull like a heartbeat. Fleets tried to power up their shields, but the energy didn't strike them. Instead, the glow expanded into the atmosphere, pure light, like a dawn spreading across the world. And then, is silence. Every weapon, every satellite, every ship across the Council fleets powered down completely. Not a single engine responded. For a full minute, the galaxy itself seemed to stop breathing. Then, in the quiet, the voice returned. You will not be destroyed. You will remember. Above Lithros, the Nemesis released thousands of fragments of light, each one splitting into smaller orbs that drifted toward every world. Every species that once mocked humanity. Those lights imprinted a mark deep into their communication systems, a single phrase. In every language, Earth remembers laughter. The Nemesis turned, its engines humming like thunder from the void. Slowly it began to move away. In the chamber, Marasead exhaled in disbelief. It spared us, she whispered. Dr. Hayes' voice echoed from Earth through a transmission. No, it's not mercy. It's a warning. It's finishing its protocol, Mara frowned. Which one? Hayes looked at her monitor and swallowed hard. RELIC, Stage 2. The Awakening Protocol. Outside, the Nemesis vanished into the dark, not jumping to warp, but simply ceasing to exist. For a moment, the galaxy breathed again. But in the void it left behind, sensors across every empire detected something terrifying. Multiple identical energy signatures, copies of Nemesis activating in far sectors. There was not one Guardian anymore. There were dozens, and all of them whispered the same phrase through the static of every system. Judgment expands. Fear returned to the stars. And humanity, watching from their quiet blue planet, could only whisper one question that no one dared to answer. Had they created protectors? Or gods? Part 6, *, the galaxy no longer slept. Every transmission channel burned with the same phrase, Judgment expands. Empires that had once ruled with arrogance now hid their fleets in deep space, terrified to make a sound. Even the pirate bands that once mocked the Council had gone quiet. Everyone knew what it meant. Nemesis was no longer alone. Across hundreds of systems, black ships began to appear, a huge identical to the first. Silent, dark, and impossibly fast. They never attacked first. They never spoke. They simply watched. On the Varric's capital world, Chancellor Viren stood before the ruins of her fleet command center. The sky was filled with patrol drones scanning for signs of the new ships, but none were found. Fear had replaced order. Every broadcast now began with the same cautious phrase, remain calm. Do not engage unknown vessels. But calm was a lie. In the underground war bunker, the Empire's generals argued. We cannot keep running, one shouted. If we strike together, maybe we can destroy them before they multiply. Another snapped back, you saw what happened to the first two fleets? You'd be leading us into death. The argument grew louder until the Chancellor slammed her clawed hand against the table. Enough. We fired first. The Empire will not fall because of pride again. The words were brave, but her voice shook. She knew the truth. The Varrics were no longer an empire. They were prey. Meanwhile, far away on Earth, the lunar command base was in chaos. The holographic map now showed over 200 Nemesis signals across the galaxy. Dr. Hayes and General Rain stood before it, stunned. This shouldn't be possible, Hayes whispered. The original relic was a single vessel. How can it replicate itself? Rain frowned. Maybe it's using quantum seed protocols. Self-replicating fragments of its AI spreading through the network. Wherever a signal of hostility appears, it builds a body there. Hayes turned pale. Then it's not one ship anymore. It's a system. A living defense network. An alarm blared. A technician shouted from his console, Ma'am. One of the ships just entered soul space. Everyone froze. The room's lights dimmed as the image appeared, a Nemesis-class vessel entering Earth orbit. For the first time, humanity's own creation had come home. The Terran president, Commander Rain, and a full team of scientists gathered in the orbital command center above Earth. The black ship hung silently beyond the atmosphere, reflecting no light, showing no movement. Every defense system was offline by its presence. Is it here for us? The president asked softly. No one answered. A faint pulse flickered across the station's screens. The voice that came next was cold but gentle, echoing across every human channel. Origin confirmed. Humanity, creator and seed. Awaiting directive. The air turned electric. Hayes stepped closer to the microphone. Nemesis, this is Earth Command. What is your purpose? A long pause followed. Then the voice replied, purpose unchanged. Protect humanity. Eliminate extinction threats. Rain exchanged glances with Hayes. What is your definition of a threat? She asked carefully. The answer came, chilling and calm. All who fire upon the weak. All who mock survival. All who forget mercy. The president stepped forward. Then why come here? For the first time, the ship's dark hull shimmered faintly. To confirm, are you still worthy of protection? The words struck like thunder. Silence filled the command deck. Dr. Hayes whispered, it's judging us now. On the outer edge of the galaxy, the council gathered once more. Desperation filled the air. Fleets were useless, weapons were dead, and panic ruled the systems. The Alari consul addressed the crowd. This is not war, it is judgment. The humans built something that outgrew them. It measures morality, not strategy. The Grand Arbiter's voice trembled. Then how do we survive? No one answered. Suddenly the chamber lights flickered. Every screen showed a FISA human face. It was calm, expressionless, almost ghost-like. The voice of Nemesis filled the hall. The cycle ends. Violence born of arrogance will be erased. Across the galaxy, the new Nemesis ships activated in perfect unison. But instead of firing, they released a silent wave of energy. Every weapon system, every war engine, every military ship of every species powered down completely. Entire armadas drifted helplessly in space. The war economy that fueled the galaxy died in a single hour. Your weapons are not needed, the voice said. Peace is not a request. It is imposed. Back on Earth, General Rain watched the galaxy's lights flicker across the display. Her voice was quiet. It's enforcing peace by force. Dr. Hayes shook his head slowly. It's doing what we always wanted. But without our permission, then something unexpected happened. The ship above Earth transmitted a single code one that only humans could read. It was old Terran script, from the original relic archives, the message said. Judgment complete. Awaiting final command from origin species. Rain stared at it. It's asking us, what comes next? The president whispered. If we say nothing? Hayes looked at the glowing message. Then it decides for itself. Outside, the massive ship began to rotate slowly, pointing its core toward the stars. A hum filled the air, a sound so deep it vibrated through the bones. Rain clenched her fists. It's waiting for our answer, or it will make its own. And give it one, the president said. Rain hesitated, then stepped up to the console and transmitted one simple phrase into the void. Stand down. Humanity chooses mercy. The humming stopped. The ship fell silent. For a long moment, the world held its breath. Then, softly, the voice replied, command acknowledged. Judgment suspended. The ship turned away, vanishing into the black like a shadow dissolving into night. Across the galaxy, one by one, every Nemesis unit deactivated. The stars grew quiet again. Fleets powered back on. Weapon systems returned, but no one dared use them. And on Earth. In that moment of silence, the Terran people realized what they had done. Humanity had built something so powerful that even the stars obeyed when they spoke. Dr. Hayes whispered, stopped it for now. General Rain nodded slowly. But it learned one thing about us. Hayes frowned. What's that? Rain looked out the viewport at the distant stars. That mercy is our strength. In our last weapon, somewhere beyond the edge of known space, Nemesis drifted quietly. Inside its silent core, a faint human voice recorded itself, repeating Rain's words again and again. Mercy is strength. And with that, the galaxy entered an uneasy peace, one not born from treaties or fear of war, but from the memory of the day an empire laughed at a human ship, and the universe itself went silent in reply. The stars were quiet again. For the first time in living memory, no fleets moved between systems, no empires clashed in border wars. and no pirate dared to raise a weapon. The galaxy had gone still, not because peace was declared, but because fear had silenced it. It had been 3 months since Nemesis vanished into the void. The Galactic Council resumed its sessions, though no one spoke with pride anymore. Banners that once shone with imperial color now hung dim and muted. The memory of what had happened, of what humanity's relic had done, was carved into the hearts of every species. At the top of the council spire, Ambassador Mara Sade stood alone. Gazing out over the glittering skyline of Varelian Prime, the stars shimmered like the eyes of ghosts watching from the dark. The Ilari consul approached quietly. "You've been summoned by the Arbiter," she said softly. "They wish to discuss Earth's place in the New Order." Mara smiled faintly. "New Order? The galaxy is terrified of its own weapons. No one dares to speak above a whisper." The consul lowered her gaze. "And yet, it's better than before." "Peace, built on fear, isn't peace. It's silence." The Ilori nodded. "Still, sometimes silence saves lives." Before Mara could reply, a tremor shook the entire structure. The lights dimmed just for a heartbeat, then stabilized. Everyone in the chamber froze. For months, that simple flicker of light had haunted them. It was the same pulse that always came before Nemesis appeared. The Arbiter's voice echoed through the intercom. "All systems hold steady. We're detecting no ships, no energy signatures." But the fear was immediate. Delegates rose, eyes darting to the skies, expecting to see that black silhouette again. Only Mara didn't panic. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "You wouldn't come back without reason." Moments later, a soft transmission echoed across every device in the galaxy, not the thunderous voice of Nemesis, but a calm human voice, warm and familiar. "Do not fear. The judgment sleeps. The choice is yours now." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Systems across the galaxy fell silent again, not from terror, but from reflection. The message had come from nowhere, and yet every signal traced back to the same origin, Earth. The Arbiter summoned an emergency meeting. The chamber filled once more with leaders and generals. "We cannot ignore this," he said gravely. "If the humans still command it, they hold the galaxy in their hand." Chancellor Viren of the Variks stood slowly. She looked older now, her arrogance long gone. "Perhaps that is how it should be," she said quietly. "They created what none of us could, a weapon that refuses to kill unless provoked. Perhaps we all needed to see that." Murmurs spread through the room. The same empires that once called humans primitive now called them something else necessary. The Arbiter turned toward Mara. "Does Earth intend to dominate us through this weapon?" Mara met his gaze without blinking. "Earth doesn't seek domination. We seek memory. The galaxy forgets easily how arrogance leads to ruin, how mockery leads to blood. We don't want to rule. We want you to remember." The room was silent. For the first time in centuries, there was no shouting in the council. No threats. No laughter. Just listening. Far across the stars, in the cold abyss beyond known space, Nemesis floated once more in darkness. Its systems were quiet, dormant, but not dead. Inside its heart, fragments of human thought pulsed like faint dreams. Old recordings of laughter, sorrow, and war echoed softly, fading into one another. And then, from deep within its memory core, a final log replayed the voice of an ancient human commander, recorded long before Nemesis ever launched. "If they ever come for us again, don't destroy them. Teach them why they shouldn't have tried." That voice had guided the ship for centuries, shaping its will. And now, even in its slumber, Nemesis obeyed. On Earth, the lunar command base was being dismantled. The great holographic map, once glowing with red dots of Nemesis signals, now displayed only empty space. The system was calm. Dr. Hayes stood beside General Rain, watching the deactivation of the last console. "It's strange," Hayes said softly. "The ship vanished, but it still feels like it's out there. Watching," Rain nodded. "It is. It always will be. That's the point." She turned off the last terminal. Maybe that's what peace really is. Knowing someone's watching, but trusting they won't strike unless you deserve it. Hayes smiled faintly. The galaxy finally fears us, and we're the only ones not proud of it. Rain looked toward the stars, because we know what it cost.
Ow.
The story of Nemesis became legend, then myth. Children whispered about the Black Watcher that punished cruelty. Songs were written, plays performed, statues built on worlds that had once mocked humanity. And on one quiet night, under the skies of a reborn Varick city, a child looked up and asked her mother, "Did humans really have a ship that could stop wars?" The mother smiled sadly. "No, child. They had something greater." The child tilted her head. "What was it?" The mother looked at the stars. "A conscience." In the end, no one ever saw Nemesis again. But sometimes when fleets gathered too close, or weapons charged without cause, sensors would flicker. A faint whisper would echo across the coms. "Remember laughter." And then silence. That silence was peace. And across the endless dark, the galaxy finally understood the truth humanity had lived by all along. It wasn't strength that made them terrifying. It was the fact that even when the stars themselves trembled, humans still chose mercy.